We're going to talk about Poppy. Poppy came to us because she had some bad things happen in her life. She was just a few hours old, and her mother rejected her and refused to allow her to eat and would push her away and not give any care to her. And then after a day or two ended up hurting her really significantly on her back leg. We thought it was broken at first. It was that bad. And so the humans who Poppy belonged to at the time started bottle feeding her every few hours and giving Poppy the care that she needed because her mother refused. Now the idea was, we thought, well, Poppy will eventually be accepted by her mom if we take care of her, but that didn't happen. And so Poppy began to see humans as safe and her mom not necessarily as safe. And so I made a little chart here to kind of talk about when Poppy was born, what parts of her brain were the most developed. And so that was her brain stem and the diencephalon, which is the part of our body that helps us move. And so these were the parts that were more developed, and she wasn't getting her relational needs met at all, except for when the humans came and they would feed her, and then they might love on her a little bit, and then go back in the house. So this is kind of what Poppy's life was like initially. And so she got really frantic when she saw a human. Does everybody understand why she might have gotten really, when a human would turn up?
She got excited?
So it was more than excitement. It was kind of panicky. Yeah, it was a real panicky feeling. Can you think about why she might have been kind of panicky? What's happening when Poppy is alone? When she was in this pen, her mom and her little brother are still in this pen with her, but they don't have anything to do with her. So what's happening to Poppy when she's alone?
She feels left behind.
She feels left behind. She's not protected. She's not getting any relational needs met. She's not able to nurse to calm herself down. So when she sees people, she gets sort of flooded in her body. I'm going to get food. I'm going to get a little bit of connection. And so it became she'd get really heightened emotionally and start screaming, crying out, because these were people who were coming to give her what she needed. But what she needed was more than just a few minutes every few hours. And so the people who owned Poppy, who are very beautiful people, said, you know, we're going to try to work through this with Poppy and her mom, and it didn't work. And then they tried to put Poppy with the herd, but the herd attacked her too. And so they said, well, this is an unsafe place for Poppy to be. Will y'all take her? Because they knew what kind of work we did. Well, we don't have other goats here. We just have 9 horses, 2 dogs, and 1 cat. And we were like, I don't know if we're the best environment for Poppy, because does she need connections with other goats, for instance? But because Poppy couldn't have connections safely with other goats, we agreed to take her. And she was about maybe 2.5 months old when we got her. She's still being bottle fed. And so we got Poppy, and we started a treatment plan of sorts with Poppy. So we decided, what's lacking in Poppy's life? What does she need to be a successful being on this earth? And we started thinking about these things and figuring out, what could we do to help her? What did Poppy need to be successful in her life and for her body and brain to be connected and regulated? So can you all think about some things? You might have to think about human babies to kind of come up with these things. But what do you think Poppy needed to feel safe in her life?
Caring?
She did. She needed caring. What kind of caring, though? Consistent caring. And so we could use the word predictable. So when we cared for her, let's say, I don't know if I come over, Poppy, can I come over and say hi to you? And let's say I was going to give her a bottle. She doesn't want me to touch her. Did y'all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. She said, don't touch me. I'm not going to touch her. But let's pretend I'm going to give her a bottle, and she drinks the bottle, but I don't touch her otherwise. What does that do for Poppy? It feeds her physically. What else does she need?
Maybe she has trauma.
She does have trauma. We know for sure she has trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know she has trauma because
Yeah,
she wasn't getting her needs met from a physical sense. Her mom physically hurt her. She had emotional trauma where she was pushed out of the herd and not getting that connection that she needed. So she had trauma in all areas of her life. So when we're feeding a baby, if I have a baby here and it's hungry and I just do this and I feed it like this, is the baby getting all its needs met? It's not getting any emotional support or caring. And so I have to hold it close and let that baby feel my heartbeat, feel my breathing, and my care for this baby. And my body starts to regulate the baby as I feed it. So the predictability of the care from the feeding aspect is important, but the predictability of my body is important because my heart and my breathing regulate the baby's body. The same thing needed to happen with Poppy. Now Poppy, when we got her, she wasn't very big, so I could hold her like this. But look at Poppy now. Could I hold her now? She's almost 200 pounds. So there's no, and she's not even a year old. She's about 6 months old. So there's no way I could hold her now. So what we did was, as we were feeding Poppy, we would stroke her down her back, along her sides, her chest, her belly, kind of imitating her mother's tongue. Those long strokes. And we would really, sometimes I would sit with her and she would lay on me and we would stroke her and she would snuggle in, put her head up under here or on my lap, and I would hold her like a baby like that. So that predictability of calming her body down with these long strokes while she's being fed. Now it only would take her a minute to a minute and a half to finish a bottle. She was fast. So if that's all the care she got, was that all she needed? If I just stroked her for a minute and a half while I took care of her, was that all she needed? No. She needed lots more care. So Poppy, yes, Poppy, I know. You know we're talking about you, don't you? You do. Started following us around. So everywhere we went, Poppy went. If I went to the bathroom, Poppy put up a fuss like the barn was burning down because she didn't have any kind of internal connection to me. If she couldn't see me, then I must have disappeared, and that same panicky feeling that she would have when she was a little tiny baby would come up. So we realized having human relationships isn't going to be enough for Poppy because we don't live here. And even if we lived here, Poppy wouldn't live in the house. So we had to figure out a way to help Poppy feel safe with the horses who are out here all the time. And so when Poppy first came to live here, we assigned her a babysitter, a horse babysitter. We gave her one. We just chose one. We said, will you stay up at the stall with Poppy, because she was too little to be out in the pasture at that time. Will you stay up here? And Miss Athena, who y'all met, agreed begrudgingly to stay. She stayed up there with Poppy for the first couple of days, and then she wanted to be back with her family. She put up with Poppy, but she doesn't feel connected to Poppy. And so then one of our geldings, Cash, showed some interest in Poppy. So then we let him be Poppy's caretaker. Well, that wasn't really working out too well because he was kind of lukewarm about her. So then we started thinking, well, everybody in the herd needs to meet Poppy. Maybe somebody will step up. So we brought Poppy out to meet the horses one at a time. So we'd have one horse in a pen and bring Poppy. And the horses were terrified of her. They tried to hurt her. They'd never seen a goat before. And so now, if we hadn't been here, Poppy would experience the same trauma again, that nobody wanted her. But really, it wasn't that the horses didn't want her. The horses became fearful and got in their brainstem and weren't able to be calm enough to think through the problem. This is a baby thing. It can't hurt me. They weren't able to do that. They were in the brainstem. So we had to help them regulate their bodies, regulate Poppy's body, and then they started to explore each other. And so the two horses in the pen behind me are Juno, far left, Iris, far right. And they're the two who took an interest in Poppy. And they have become her adoptive moms. Really, Iris is more the mom and Juno's more the aunt. So we're noticing lately that Iris has started to feel very comfortable with Miss Poppy, going out and exploring on her own. So she'll let Juno babysit for a whole day. Like, she'll be okay if Juno and Poppy are way over there and she's way over here, and she's okay with that. But when they first became friends, Iris wouldn't let anybody around her goat. She'd move everybody away. Hey, you need to be careful. She's a baby. You don't hurt her. And she wouldn't be very far from her. Like right now, this would be a far distance for Iris when she first decided to take over. So we started helping Iris and Poppy become friends by helping them do things together, eating together, grooming them together, doing things that would form this relationship so that Poppy could be safe here with these horses and we wouldn't have to worry about a predator eating her, because she'd be easy to eat and catch. So we addressed where Iris was in her body and where Poppy was, and then we started working on their relationship from a relationship perspective. And so how did we do that? Again, we went back to those principles of what do we need to be safe? We need to have predictable interactions. We need to know what's going to happen. We need to stay regulated and have a regulated presence to help us when we get dysregulated. And then we need to have a focus on the relationship. Now, how do we build good relationships? Do we build good relationships by only doing easy things? No, you're like, no way. Because what kind of relationship do we have then when we're just doing easy stuff?
Superficial.
It's a superficial relationship. We don't really know each other very well. We get to really know each other when we're under stress. So like the guys at the fire department really get to know each other because they're literally life and death situations all the time. Those bonds are forever. They become a family. So that's what we had to start thinking about with Poppy and Iris. It's not just going through the easy things like eating together. Now we've got to figure out how do we do harder things together so that they develop their relationship. And all that really took was us being with them together and allowing them to interact. So when Iris would grab Poppy's horns, because they're interesting, and Poppy would say, no, I don't like that. Don't grab my horns. And Iris would be like, what? And then she'd try to do it again, and Poppy would get her with her horns, like, no, don't do that. I don't like that. That was a time where they had to work through, that's difficult, that's a boundary. I don't want you to grab my horns. Now, she does want Iris to scratch between her horns. So how did they figure that out? They had to figure it out through the horn conversation, that she had to learn that she didn't like the horns being touched, but the flesh between the horns. And they did that through trial and error, where she would ask, Poppy would say no, and then she would accidentally scratch over here, and Poppy would say, oh yeah, I like that. And that's how they learned. That's how they got along. Poppy, you would take a nap right now, because I was going to ask you to go and interact with the horses. But she feels very safe, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I'm very proud of Poppy actually, because the last time we had a lunch and learn, she was trying to get on the tables and eat people's lunches. So this is a much better greeting y'all and then falling asleep is much better. All right. So is this making sense about how we this same thing we do with humans? It's the exact same way that we treat humans who have trauma, is that we start with safety and helping them feel safe here. Helping them feel safe in the physical environment, like we did with Poppy. Helping them feel safe emotionally. What do I expect? What's going to happen? How are you going to treat me? What if I have an outburst? What's going to happen? So all of these things are part of creating safety. And then we work on communicating with the brain in the same way that we did Poppy. We provide rhythmic, patterned, repetitive input, like the stroking with Poppy's body, to humans in different ways. So we could do that through our voices, through the way we move, through music, through rhythm, through walking. All of those ways are the ways that we can communicate to a person or an animal's brainstem and help their diencephalon become regulated. So let's say Poppy was so upset that she was running around, she couldn't control her body. The worst thing I could do is try to control Poppy's body. That'd be the worst thing I could do. But if I could provide some rhythmic, patterned, repetitive input with a regulated system, then she would be able to regulate her own body. So we would provide the rhythm until she could join us in that rhythm, and maybe that's a walk together or a run together or headbutting a ball together, whatever that might be. And so that's how we would help her to calm her body down instead of trying to take control over her body. You can see from this video that we had a very specific plan to help Poppy when she came here to overcome these traumatic things that happened in her life. We gave her community and support, predictable care that was both relational and physical to her specific needs. And we began helping her to form healthy relationships with other members of our herd. And through that, Poppy was able to work through some of the fears and concerns that she had about relationships from her experiences in her original herd and with her mom. And we can see now from how Poppy is behaving that she feels safe in this herd. She has overcome the hard things that happened in her life, and she is in a community that loves her and supports her, and she is thriving. The way that we helped Poppy is the same way that we help people overcome traumatic things in their lives. It's really no different because we have the same basic nervous system. The things we need are the same things that Poppy needed. If you like this video, let us know. Comment below and tell us what you think about what we did to help Poppy and if you would have done anything any differently. We really enjoy it when you drop by, and we hope you'll come back soon.